In the southeastern depths of Algeria, where golden sands kiss an endless sky, lies one of humanity's greatest hidden treasures. Tassili, a name that resonates with mystery and ancient wisdom, stretches across 72,000 square kilometers of the Sahara Desert, an area larger than Belgium itself. This massive sandstone plateau rises majestically to 2,000 meters above sea level, extending over 800 kilometers through the Ilizi province. The name Tassili comes from the Tuareg language, meaning a plateau of the rivers, a seemingly paradoxical name for a place now characterized by extreme aridity. Yet this name holds within it the memory of a time when this barren landscape was a lush paradise, where rivers flowed freely and abundant wildlife roamed green savannas. The plateau's geological formations are nothing short of spectacular, with erosion over millions of years carving the sandstone into surreal shapes that resemble stone forests, natural arches, towering pillars, and labyrinthine canyons.
Excellent.
These formations create an otherworldly landscape that appears frozen in time, a natural sculpture garden crafted by wind and water over eons. The discovery of Tassili's archaeological significance began in 1933, when French officer Brennans led the first documented expedition into the region. However, the true revelation came in the 1950s through the dedicated work of French archaeologist Henri Ihaut, who spent years meticulously documenting and copying the thousands of rock paintings hidden in caves and rock shelters throughout the plateau. What Ihaut and his team discovered was astounding. More than 15,000 paintings and engravings covering the walls of caves and rock shelters, spanning thousands of years of human history. These artworks would fundamentally change our understanding of North African prehistory and the dramatic climate transformation of the Sahara Desert. The rock art of Tassili represents one of the most complete and continuous records of human cultural evolution anywhere in the world. Archaeologists and art historians have identified for distinct chronological periods, each reflecting dramatic changes in climate, lifestyle, and human adaptation. The first period, known as the Hunter period, spans from approximately 10,000 to 6,000 BCE and represents the earliest phase of human artistic expression in the region. During this era, the Sahara was experiencing what scientists call the African humid period, a time when the region received abundant rainfall and supported diverse ecosystems. The rock art from this period depicts large wild animals in spectacular detail, elephants with their trunks raised, giraffes stretching their long necks to feed on trees, rhinoceros charging across open plains, hippopotamus wallowing in rivers, and various antelope species grazing peacefully. The human figures shown are hunters carrying spears, bows, and arrows, pursuing their prey with remarkable skill. These paintings are typically large in scale, some exceeding 2 meters in length, and are deeply engraved into the rock surface, suggesting they held significant ceremonial or spiritual importance. The artistic style shows sophisticated understanding of animal anatomy and movement, with artists capturing the essence of each species with minimal but effective lines. The second period, the Pastoral or Cattle period, lasted from approximately 6,000 to 4,000 BCE and marks a revolutionary shift in human society. This era witnessed the domestication of cattle and the transition from nomadic hunting to semi-sedentary pastoralism. The rock art explodes with scenes of daily life, massive herds of cattle numbering in the hundreds, milking scenes showing the importance of dairy in the diet, communal dances and celebrations, elaborate hairstyles and body decorations, and significantly, women playing prominent roles in society. The artistic technique also evolved, with painters now using mineral pigments to create colorful compositions. Red ochre from iron oxide, white from kaolin clay, yellow from natural ochre, and black from charcoal or manganese created a vibrant palette. The paintings show detailed attention to cattle breeds, suggesting selective breeding was already practiced. Some scholars believe the presence of certain cattle types indicates contact with Nile Valley civilizations. Human figures are often shown in ceremonial dress, suggesting complex social structures and religious practices. This period represents a golden age when the Sahara supported large populations living in relative prosperity. The third chronological phase, known as the Horse Period, extended from approximately 2000 BCE to the beginning of the Common Era, and it marks a crucial transition as the Sahara began its inexorable transformation into the desert we know today. The climate was becoming progressively drier, rivers were shrinking, vegetation was diminishing, and large game animals were disappearing or migrating southward to more hospitable regions. The rock art of this period reflects these dramatic environmental changes and the human response to them. Horse-drawn chariots appear frequently in the paintings, sophisticated vehicles with spoked wheels that suggest technological advancement and possible contact with Mediterranean civilizations. Warriors are depicted in battle scenes, armed with spears, shields, and bows, indicating increased competition for dwindling resources and the emergence of territorial conflicts. The paintings show smaller, more agile animals replacing the massive megafauna of earlier periods, including horses, donkeys, and smaller antelope species better adapted to arid conditions. Human figures are portrayed in more dynamic, action-oriented poses, often showing scenes of hunting, warfare, and migration. The artistic style becomes more schematic and less naturalistic compared to earlier periods, with emphasis on symbolic representation rather than realistic depiction. Some researchers interpret this shift as reflecting the increasing stress and urgency of life in a rapidly changing environment. The presence of horse-drawn chariots is particularly significant as it suggests the existence of trade routes connecting North Africa with the Mediterranean world, potentially bringing new technologies, ideas, and cultural influences to the Saharan populations. The fourth and final period, the Camel period, began around the 1st century CE and continues to influence the region's culture today. This era represents the complete transformation of the Sahara into a hyper-arid desert, and the full adaptation of human societies to these harsh conditions. The dromedary camel, perfectly evolved for desert survival with its ability to go days without water and traverse vast distances across sand dunes, becomes the dominant animal in the rock art. Paintings show camel caravans crossing the desert, suggesting the establishment of trans-Saharan trade routes that would become economically crucial in later centuries. The Tuareg people emerge as the masters of this desert environment, and their cultural symbols begin appearing in the rock art. Typhna script, the ancient writing system of the Berber peoples, is carved alongside pictorial representations, marking the transition from purely pictorial communication to written language. The artistic style becomes even more simplified and symbolic, with geometric patterns and abstract symbols replacing the detailed naturalistic scenes of earlier periods. Human figures are often shown in traditional Tuareg dress, including the distinctive Tagelmost face veil that protects against desert sand and sun. These later paintings and engravings provide invaluable insights into the development of nomadic desert cultures and their strategies for survival in one of Earth's most challenging environments. The rock art of Tassili and Ager serves not only as an artistic and cultural record, but also as an invaluable scientific document of one of the most dramatic climate transformations in Earth's recent geological history. Approximately 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age, the Sahara region experienced a fundamental shift in its climate system. As global temperatures rose and ice sheets retreated in the northern hemisphere, the African monsoon system strengthened and shifted northward, bringing abundant rainfall to what is now the world's largest hot desert. This period, known to scientists as the African humid period or the Holocene wet phase, transformed the Sahara into a vast network of interconnected lakes, rivers, and wetlands supporting diverse ecosystems comparable to modern East African savannas. Paleoclimatic evidence from lake sediments, pollen cores, and geological formations confirms what the rock art depicts: elephants, hippopotamus, crocodiles, giraffes, and numerous other species that today survive only in sub-Saharan Africa once thrived throughout the Saharan region. The rivers shown in ancient paintings have been confirmed by satellite imagery and ground surveys, which reveal dried riverbeds, ancient lake shores, and delta formations hidden beneath the sand. These paleo-rivers formed extensive drainage systems, with some channels stretching hundreds of kilometers and feeding into massive paleo lakes. Lake Chad, which today is a shallow, shrinking body of water, was once a vast inland sea covering an area larger than the Caspian Sea, with depths exceeding 160 meters. Archaeological evidence shows that human populations flourished during this green Sahara period, with settlements located along lake shores and riverbanks, exploiting the rich aquatic resources through fishing and hunting waterfowl. The transition from this verdant paradise to the hyper-arid desert began around 5,500 years ago and occurred in several pulses rather than as a gradual, linear process. Climate models and geological evidence suggest that the desiccation was driven by orbital variations in Earth's position relative to the Sun, specifically changes in the planet's axial precession that weakened the African monsoon. As rainfall decreased, vegetation cover diminished, and this created a feedback loop. Less vegetation meant higher surface albedo, reflecting more solar radiation back to space, which further reduced rainfall. The process accelerated as lakes dried up, rivers ceased flowing, and the landscape became increasingly unable to retain moisture. Human activities may have contributed to this transformation through overgrazing by domestic cattle, which would have reduced vegetation cover and accelerated desertification in vulnerable areas. The rock art chronicles this catastrophic environmental change through the changing species depicted and the evolving human lifestyle shown in the paintings. The disappearance of water-dependent megafauna, the reduction in cattle herds, the appearance of horses and eventually camels, all document the progressive adaptation to increasingly arid conditions over thousands of years. The geological formations of Tassili and Ager represent millions of years of Earth's dynamic history, creating a landscape that appears almost alien in its otherworldly beauty. The plateau is primarily composed of Paleozoic sandstone, specifically from the Ordovician and Devonian periods, dating back approximately 450 to 350 million years. These ancient sedimentary rocks were originally deposited as sand in vast prehistoric seas and river deltas, then compressed and lithified over geological time through processes of diagenesis. Subsequent tectonic uplift raised these sedimentary layers thousands of meters above their original deposition level, creating the high plateau we see today. The real artistry of Tassili's landscape, however, comes from erosion, the patient sculptor that has worked on these rocks for millions of years. Wind erosion, or eoline processes, has been particularly significant in shaping the plateau's distinctive features. The constant abrading action of wind-blown sand particles acts like natural sandblasting, selectively wearing away softer rock layers while leaving harder, more resistant strata standing as prominent features. This differential erosion creates spectacular formations including towering stone pillars known as hoodoos or fairy chimneys, some reaching heights of 50 meters or more, standing like silent sentinels across the landscape. Natural arches and bridges span gaps in the rock, formed when erosion breaks through narrow walls, leaving graceful stone curves suspended in midair. The famous as stone forests of Tassili consist of densely packed erosional remnants that resemble petrified trees, creating surreal landscapes that challenge perspective and scale. Water erosion, though now limited given the extreme aridity, has also played a crucial historical role in shaping the plateau. During the humid period, flowing water carved deep canyons and wadies into the sandstone, creating the labyrinthine network of valleys that characterize much of Tassili. Flash floods, which still occasionally occur during rare rainstorms, continue to modify these channels, cutting deeper into the bedrock and undermining cliff faces. The rock shelters and caves that house the prehistoric art were often formed by this combination of wind and water erosion, creating protected alcoves and cliff faces where moisture and reduced sunlight have helped preserve the ancient paintings. The color variations in the rock strata add another dimension of visual interest to the landscape. Different mineral compositions create bands of red, orange, yellow, white, and black running through the sandstone, the result of varying iron oxide concentrations and other mineral impurities. These colorful striations are particularly visible in cliff faces and canyon walls, creating natural works of abstract art on a massive scale. Some formations contain fossilized evidence of ancient marine life, including trilobites and brachiopods, reminding visitors that this now desert landscape was once beneath a primordial ocean. The unique geology of Tassili has created specialized microhabitats that support the region's remarkable biodiversity despite the harsh climate. Despite its reputation as one of Earth's most inhospitable environments, Tassili Enager harbors surprising diversity of life forms that have evolved remarkable adaptations to survive extreme aridity, temperature fluctuations, and nutrient-poor soils. The biological treasures of Tassili are as scientifically valuable as its archaeological heritage, with several endemic species found nowhere else on Earth. The most famous and critically endangered is the Saharan cypress, Cupressus dupresianer, also known as the tarout or Tassili cypress. This ancient relict species represents a living link to the wetter climate of the past, when forests covered much of what is now desert. Today, fewer than 300 mature individuals survive in scattered, isolated groves within the most protected valleys of Tassili. These trees are among the oldest living organisms on the planet, with some individuals estimated to be over 2,000 years old through dendrochronological studies. Their survival in such extreme conditions is miraculous, achieved through specialized adaptations including extremely deep root systems that can tap groundwater dozens of meters below the surface, thick bark that minimizes water loss and protects against temperature extremes, and the ability to enter prolonged dormancy during the driest periods. The Saharan cypress is listed as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List. Beyond the cypresses, Tassili's flora includes approximately 500 plant species, many showing xerophytic adaptations such as reduced leaf surface area, thick cuticles, deep taproots, and CAM photosynthesis pathways that minimize water loss. The gelters, or permanent water holes fed by underground springs, create oases of biodiversity supporting fish species, aquatic invertebrates, and concentrations of amphibians. The fauna of Tassili has been dramatically reduced from the diversity shown in prehistoric rock art, but several mammal species persist including the Addax antelope, Dharmer gazelle, Barberbree sheep, fennec fox, and various rodent species. The Addax and Dharmer gazelle are both critically endangered, with Tassili representing one of their last refuges in the wild. Bird diversity is surprisingly high, with over 100 species recorded, including resident desert specialists and migratory species that use Tassili as a stopover point during trans-Saharan journeys. The Tuareg people, often called the blue men due to the indigo dye of their traditional clothing that sometimes stains their skin, are the indigenous inhabitants of Tassili Enager and the broader Saharan region. Their culture, language, and way of life have been shaped by thousands of years of desert living, creating one of the world's most distinctive nomadic societies. The Tuareg are Berber people, descendants of the ancient inhabitants of North Africa who predate the Arab expansion into the region. Their language, Tamashek, belongs to the Berber language family and is still widely spoken throughout Tuareg communities. What makes Tamashek particularly fascinating is its written form, Typhoner, an ancient script with origins potentially dating back 2,500 years or more. This script appears in many of the later rock art sites in Tassili, representing the transition from purely pictorial communication to written language. Modern Typhoner has been standardized and is now used as an official script in some North African countries. Tuareg society is matrilineal, meaning descent and inheritance passed through the mother's line, which is relatively unusual among Saharan peoples. Women enjoy relatively high status in traditional Tuareg culture, with the right to own property, initiate divorce, and maintain control over their possessions in marriage. Interestingly, while Tuareg women do not traditionally veil their faces, Tuareg men wear the tegelmust, an indigo blue veil that covers the face except for the eyes, especially in the presence of elders as a sign of respect. This practice is the reverse of most Islamic societies and may predate the introduction of Islam to the region. The tegelmost serves practical purposes as well, protecting the wearer from the intense sun, wind-blown sand, and helping to conserve moisture. The traditional Tuareg economy was based on nomadic pastoralism, with families moving their herds of goats, sheep, and camels in regular patterns to exploit seasonal pastures and water sources. Trans-Saharan trade was another crucial economic activity, with Tuareg tribes controlling key caravan routes. This role as desert traders and guides continues today, with many Tuareg working as guides for tourists visiting Tassili. The exceptional universal value of Tassili en Ager received international recognition in 1982 when UNESCO inscribed it on the World Heritage List, acknowledging both its cultural and natural significance. The inscription recognized Tassili under multiple criteria: as an outstanding example of rock art representing human creative genius, as an exceptional testimony to cultural traditions of prehistoric communities, and as containing natural features of exceptional beauty and scientific importance. In 1986, Tassili was additionally designated as a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve under the Man and the Biosphere Programme. The Algerian government had already established Tassili en Ager National Park in 1972, covering approximately 72,000 square kilometers, making it one of Africa's largest protected areas. However, protective designation alone cannot guarantee preservation, and Tassili faces numerous significant conservation challenges. The rock art, which represents the site's most irreplaceable cultural treasure, is threatened by multiple factors. Natural weathering processes continue inexorably, with wind erosion, temperature fluctuations causing rock exfoliation, occasional rainfall leading to mineral dissolution, and biological weathering from lichens and bacteria all gradually degrading the painted surfaces. Human impacts have accelerated deterioration in many cases. Uncontrolled tourism in the past led to direct damage from touching the paintings, graffiti, and even attempts to remove rock art panels. While tourism is now more strictly regulated, with mandatory guides and designated routes, enforcement remains challenging given the vast area and limited range of resources. Climate change represents an emerging threat whose full impacts remain uncertain but potentially severe. The biological resources of Tassili are equally threatened. The Saharan cypress population continues to decline due to lack of natural regeneration. Large mammal populations have been decimated by hunting and habitat degradation. The Algerian government, in cooperation with UNESCO and various international partners, has implemented several conservation initiatives including systematic documentation and monitoring of rock art condition, restriction of access to sensitive sites, and training of local Tuareg guides in conservation principles. Visiting Tassili en Ager is not a conventional tourism experience, but rather an expedition into one of Earth's most remote and challenging environments, offering rewards proportional to the effort required. The plateau's remoteness, harsh climate, and lack of infrastructure mean that visiting requires careful planning, physical fitness, proper equipment, and most importantly, an experienced local Tuareg guide who knows the terrain, water sources, and weather patterns. The typical visit to Tassili involves a multi-day trek, usually lasting anywhere from 5 days to 2 weeks depending on the specific itinerary and sites to be visited.
Rear's almost full.
Access to the plateau typically begins from the town of Janet, a small settlement at the base of the massif that serves as the gateway to Tassili. From Janet, visitors travel by four-wheel drive vehicle to trailheads, though some of the most spectacular rock art sites can only be reached on foot or by camel. The physical demands are significant. Trekkers must be prepared for daily hikes of 15 to 25 kilometers over rough terrain, scrambling over boulders, navigating sandy valleys, and ascending steep escarpments. Temperatures can be extreme, reaching over 45 degrees Celsius during summer days while dropping near freezing on winter nights. The optimal visiting period is from October through April when daytime temperatures are more moderate, though nights remain cold requiring warm sleeping bags and clothing. Accommodations in Tassili are entirely camping-based, with visitors sleeping in tents or sometimes under the stars in bivouac style. All food, water, and equipment must be carried in. The lack of amenities is total. No hotels, no restaurants,
These symbols must
no
tell a
shops,
story.
no
A hunt,
cellular
maybe, the animals are
coverage,
central?
no
Or a
internet
ritual. Look at the human
connectivity.
figures.
This complete disconnection from modern conveniences is actually part of Tassili's appeal for many visitors.
These paintings are
offering
ancient,
a rare
telling
opportunity
stories of
to
our
truly
ancestors and the
unplug
animals they
experience
revered.
nature and
They
history
guide us
without
even now.
technological distractions. The highlight of any Tassili visit is viewing the rock art sites, where guides lead groups to caves and shelters containing the ancient paintings. The emotional impact of seeing these artworks in their original context is profound. Tassili en Ager continues to be an active site of scientific research across multiple
Path
disciplines,
looks clear. Ready
with
to
new
head in?
discoveries
Yes, coordinates
regularly
matched. Let's
expanding
go.
our understanding of the region's past and present. Archaeological investigations continue to uncover new rock art sites and artifacts, with
These are
systematic
incredible, so
surveys
detailed.
suggesting that
Look at
many
this
painted
hunter with the
shelters
bow.
remain
animals
undocumented
are
in
so
remote
lifelike.
parts of the plateau. Modern archaeological techniques including radiocarbon dating, pigment analysis, and digital documentation are being applied to better understand the chronology and techniques used in creating the rock art. Three-dimensional scanning and photogrammetry are being employed to create detailed digital records of rock art panels, providing both conservation documentation and opportunities for detailed analysis. These digital archives serve multiple purposes. They preserve detailed records in case of future deterioration, allow researchers worldwide to study the art without visiting fragile sites,
Look at the detail
and
on these
enable
figures.
virtual reality
Incredible.
experiences.
Let's see if we can activate it.
Paleoclimatic research in Tassili contributes to understanding Saharan climate history and predicting future changes. Researchers collect sediment cores from dried lake beds, analyze pollen trapped in ancient deposits, and examine fossilized plant remains to reconstruct past environments. This research has global significance because understanding how the Sahara responded to past climate changes helps scientists model how
How's the
desert
growth in there?
regions might respond
Steady.
to
The
current
samples are
climate
adapting
change.
well. Good. The fossil data
Ecological
matches.
studies focus on the remarkable adaptations
the
of
samples
Tassili's
from over
flora
there.
and fauna,
Right.
with
This one looks
particular
promising.
attention to the critically endangered Saharan cypress. Anthropological research with Tuareg communities documents
The
traditional
desert teaches us
ecological
patience
knowledge
and the
that
balance
has
of all
accumulated
things.
That's a
over
profound
millennia
perspective. How
of
does that
desert
apply to healing?
habitation.
Yes, please explain.
This knowledge includes detailed understanding of seasonal rainfall patterns, locations of ephemeral water sources,
So, fever and
medicinal
headache,
uses
for how
of
long?
desert plants,
2 days.
and
It is very
navigation
bad.
techniques.
We'll need to check for dehydration.
Collaborative research programs aim to document and preserve this knowledge while respecting Tuareg intellectual property rights. The intersection of traditional knowledge and modern science has proven particularly valuable for conservation efforts. Tassili en Ager stands as one of humanity's most precious cultural and natural heritage sites, offering insights that extend far beyond its geographic boundaries. The rock art serves as an irreplaceable archive documenting human creativity, social organization, and adaptation over thousands of years. The progressive changes visible in the art chronicle one of the most significant environmental transformations in recent geological history, providing a human perspective on climate change that resonates powerfully in our current era of anthropogenic environmental alteration. The lessons from Tassili are sobering. A region that supported thriving human populations, diverse wildlife, and abundant resources was transformed by climate shifts into one of Earth's most hostile environments. Human societies adapted, but only by fundamentally changing their lifestyles, economies, and cultural practices. Some populations migrated away entirely, unable or unwilling to adjust to the new conditions. These historical precedents offer cautionary insights for contemporary societies facing climate disruption, demonstrating both human resilience and the severe costs of major environmental change. The site also highlights the fragility of cultural heritage and the challenges of preservation in rapidly changing conditions. Despite its UNESCO designation and protected status, Tassili faces escalating threats
Starting
from
the scan
climate
now.
change.
Good. Framing the
The
panel.
future
Readings are
of
stable.
Tassili depends on
Excellent.
multiple
Documenting.
factors, some within human control and others beyond it. Successful conservation requires sustained commitment from the Algerian government, international organizations, and local communities.
The sun
Tourism
sets,
must
we
be
move.
carefully managed to provide
camels are
economic
Lead on,
benefits
the
that
night is
support
near.
conservation while minimizing
This way.
impacts
The formations
on
ahead are
fragile
incredible.
resources.
Amazing textures. How much
The
further?
Tuareg
This is
people,
stunning. Keep
whose
going.
ancestors created much of the rock art and who have served as custodians of the plateau for millennia, must be central partners in conservation
We
efforts.
must avoid this pass. It's too risky.
Scientific
Agreed, but what about the
research must
eastern route?
continue,
It adds a day, but it's
expanding
safer.
our
I agree.
understanding while training
Here we
new
see
generations
depictions of ancient life in Tassili.
ecologists,
These figures show early
and
hunting and community.
conservationists. Climate
In the Tassili,
change
Niger,
adaptation
ancient artists
strategies
captured
need to
the
be
essence of their
developed
world on
specifically
stone.
for
Their
heritage
stories
sites
still
like
echo today.
Education and awareness programs can help build global appreciation for Tassili's significance. Standing amid the towering stone formations of Tassili and Ager, surrounded by the silent testimony of artists who lived millennia ago, one cannot help but feel the weight of deep time and the ephemeral nature of human civilizations. These paintings, created by people whose names are forever lost but whose visions remain vivid, speak across the vast gulf of time with surprising clarity. They tell us that this desert, now seemingly eternal in its aridity, was once a living landscape of rivers, forests, and abundant wildlife. They show us that human societies flourished here, creating art of remarkable sophistication and beauty even in prehistoric times. They document the slow catastrophe of climate change and the human cost of environmental transformation. The paintings on these rocks are more than historical curiosities or archaeological artifacts. They are messages from our ancestors, warnings, and wisdom encoded in ochre and charcoal. The story of Tassili is ultimately about change, adaptation, and survival. It demonstrates that no environment is permanent, no civilization is immune to the forces of nature, and human ingenuity is tested most severely when the world transforms around us. In our contemporary world, facing our own climate crisis, Tassili's lessons take on urgent relevance. We too are witnessing rapid environmental change, rising temperatures, shifting precipitation patterns, species extinctions, and ecosystem transformations. We too face the challenge of adaptation.
Look at these
The
figures. They
difference
seem
is
to be
that
dancing.
Unlike
Yes,
the
and this one
prehistoric
looks like a
Saharans,
hunt.
know
It's a
what
whole
is
story
happening
on the
and have
wall.
the capacity to influence the outcome. As a World Heritage Site, Tassili belongs not only to Algeria but to all humanity. Its preservation is a collective responsibility, requiring international cooperation and sustained commitment. In preserving Tassili, we honor the legacy of ancient artists and ensure that future generations will also have the opportunity to connect with these ancient voices. Tassili en Ager, the plateau of the rivers, stands as eternal testament to change and continuity, to what we have lost and what endures, speaking across the infinite desert of time.